What's up, guys? This is Justin and I'm Dale again. We're doing another Ustream video, as always on Friday. We're going to talk about the bench press, a little bit on things that you need to work on to get your bench press right, things you need to play around with to figure out your body style, to bench press to the best way that's suited to you. So,
a few things that we're going to go over today are going to be really essential for not only the wall lifters out there, but also for any of you geared lifters, or if it's just somebody that you're looking to get, out of maybe a little bit of a plateau or something like that, and there could be possibly something that's just maybe not where it needs to be as far as form-wise with that bench, or maybe you've been trying a few things and nothing's working and you want to try mixing it up. Take some of the information that we're giving you and try applying it and see what it does for you.
First thing we want to talk about is hand placement. We're going to kind of walk through how you would do a bench press. So first thing you do, you're going to lay down on the bench and you grab the bar. Where you grab the bar makes a big difference in how you bench press. Some people, like going super wide. If you got long arms, a lot of people, like trying to cut the distance down and going super wide. It's not always the best case, and then we've got some people that, have weaker shoulders and weaker chest, so they want to use a lot of triceps, so they bring their hands, super far in. Well, you don't always want to do that. You want to vary your hand grip up, but just, in general, you have to find out where you're comfortable and, primarily train there. Normally what I'll do is on a standard bar, I'll put my pinky on the ring, and that's where, my normal raw grip is. So for everybody out there, this is a normal, standard bar. And that's my normal, normal grip. So it's coming out like that. Now, when it comes to competition time and I'm in a shirt, I'll widen my grip out to the maximum length. Where my index finger is on that ring. That way it cuts the distance down a little bit. I get a little bit more spread, a little bit more rebound out of my shirt. Where do you like holding yours?
For me, again, it's kind of the same thing. It depends on if I'm just in the middle of training or if I'm actually in competition. As many of you all know, I'm the big, range of motion, mobility guy, so I like keeping things as close to a natural range of motion as I can. So one of the things that I do, not only for myself, but anytime I'm working with someone new and we start that little bit of the introduction to the bench press to find out where their natural range of motion is on that bench, is I'll have them walk over to a wall, pretend that it's the tailgate or the ass end of a car, and that car's broke down and they've got to push it. Your body instinctively will go to the natural position that's going to allow it to get the most pushing power. And so from there, most of the time, it's going to be in a position to where, from my elbow to my wrist, is in a perfectly straight line. We start getting out like this as we're coming down, or in too close. There's just a lot of different joint issues we can cause. We can get that shoulder to start moving around real funky inside that joint. Never a good thing if that humerus head is, crashing around, grinding on some cartilage and different things like that. But if you can get that good neutral grip, it helps with one of the next things that we're going to be talking about, which we'll, in a second when we start talking about the lats and the back, you'll understand how keeping that humerus head in a neutral position is really going to help out. But to answer the question, for me, if I'm just in normal training, it's usually I put my pinky right on the edge of the bar, right on that bar ring. If I'm in competition, because my arms aren't quite as long as what Dale's are, so what I usually do is I take my middle finger or my ring finger and I sit right in there. I kind of divide the difference to where I can see that ring right between those two fingers. And that usually works out perfect for me. I'm able to come down, keep a nice straight line from my elbow to my shoulder to where everything is supported as I bench.
And even when I'm training in a shirt, most of the time I won't go all the way out, to the maximum allowed width. I'll train, with maybe my middle finger on the ring, so it's about an inch inside. That way, it feels like when I go all the way out, I get a little bit more load out of my shirt, a little bit more rebound, and it cuts the distance down a little bit. So, in theory, I'm training probably, an inch longer range of motion when I'm training. So when I go to a competition, I feel like my stroke just got, magically shorter just by sliding my hands out a little bit. I know, at one point, I don't know if he still does, but Louis always was telling people, train a little bit inside where your normal competition grip is, and then slide it out a little bit. And, an inch is not going to make a big difference. Now, if you go moving your whole hand, a whole hand width over, you're not going to know what to do. It's going to feel weird. You're going to use different muscles, and you're going to get screwed up. So, vary your grip a little bit, but just a little bit. You don't have to go crazy with it. Anything else to add?
No. Hand position. Just feel free to mess around with them a little bit. I know for me, it took me a good maybe 2 years to find that exact money spot. I felt 100% comfortable, felt like everything was working just right. And it was just a trial and error situation. I was one of those raw guys that when I first started, I had, the crease of my thumb right on that inside line. And, everybody kept saying, oh, you're raw, you have to go there. But over time, it just got to where I was using way too much tricep. I was getting stuck in way too many sticking points. So from there, I just started slowly sliding that hand out, messing around with it. If you remember right, if you watched any of our squat videos, we talked a lot about the different stances. Think of think of your hand positioning as your different stances. Feel free to mess around with those. If you're a raw lifter and you're getting stuck just a little bit off that chest, it means that there's probably a good possibility that your triceps are a little weak. So every once in a while during your training, feel free to go ahead and hit a couple sets with that hand in a little bit closer. Work those triceps a little bit. That's, again, like with the squat, always make sure you're hitting as many different angles as you can.
Yep.
So always make sure that you're trying those different hand positions. And one day you're going to go to do your bench. You're going to have it in a different position. It's going to come down and everything's just going to hit. And you're going to know right then and there that is the exact hand position you need to be able to press the most amount of weight.
Yeah. One thing he was mentioning is changing up your hand position, because I've got a lot of clients that I train, and they're like, I bench close, and they're every time I'm like, all right, let's widen it out, they freak out, and they're like, no, I bench close. Well, they suck when they bring their hands out wide, because they have a weak chest or weak shoulders, and they don't want to train that because they suck up there. Well, to get better, you have to hit what you're not good at. So definitely, vary your hand position up. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is, I don't see a whole lot of people, mention it too much, but Spud, I know, is always big on squeezing the bar. When you squeeze that bar, you activate more muscles. You're activating more forearm power, you're activating more triceps, more chest, more everything when you actually squeeze that bar hard. A lot of times if we get to a sticking point, you hear Spud saying, squeeze, 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 squeeze. He's talking about squeeze the bar, because when you do, you activate, I don't know what percentage it is, maybe 10%, 15% more, tricep activity. So you can actually get to a sticking point and squeeze, and then you grind it on out. So that's one thing you definitely want to make sure you're doing.
All right, let's move into back and lats. This is a real common deal. It's ironic that we decided to talk about this. I actually got into a Facebook discussion the other day with someone about using the back and the lats on the chest or on the bench instead of this person thought that whenever we were saying that we were basically trying to say that don't use the chest. It'll be kind of hard since this is a pushing motion and that the chest is of course the primary mover. There's a couple things that by using your back and your lats, there's a couple things that you're going to do. One of the most important things that's going to be taking place is by properly squeezing and tightening your upper back, it's going to allow your body to suck that arm back into socket. That is going to allow you to press in the most safest, optimal position possible. Again, as many of you know, I'm all about the safety, keeping the body as healthy as you can. The other thing that's really good about this is the better you get with being able to squeeze that back and hold it there, you're actually shortening your bar path just a little bit. If I squeeze, you can see from an angle, I'm going to leave one arm relaxed and the other one I have squeezed back. Look at the difference there. I mean, that's a huge, huge difference in my bar path, in my range of motion. You know, can you imagine if every bench I had to do, I had to press out this far? It would be a nightmare. So in competition, it's going to be very big because we want to be able to move that weight as quickly as possible and have to make it travel as short of a distance as possible as well. So the other thing, again, is keeping the body safe. It's also protecting the scapula area. A lot of times, I was at a meet not too long ago, handling a few people, and I'd never seen so many pec tears at a meet before. And one of the things that I noticed on almost every single one is as soon as they would come off that chest, and they were right there at lockout, they were struggling a little bit, they're push, 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 and all of a sudden, they just let that back go. And as soon as they come up, you could just see that pec minor done, because nothing's being held in the safe position anymore. So another key thing, again, we're trying to keep the body safe. Not only we're trying to keep the shoulders and everything safe, but we got to keep the chest healthy as well. Because if we blow the chest, you're not going to be benching for a while.
Yeah, you're done for a while.
You're done. And it's really, really horrible, painful process to go back through in rehab.
It's not fun, I promise.
And it's going to be a little different for everybody. You know, you look at Dale's back. His back is quite a bit bigger than mine. So the way that he's going to go about using his back and using his lats may be a little bit different than mine is. You know.
Do you want to kind of walk through and show them your setup versus my setup?
And this is where it's gonna come really important to start getting it. You know, there's a lot of different ways we can set up. Some people like to slide all the way back, get underneath the bar. Some people just like to start out flat on the bench. For me, I do a little bit of both. I slide. I go ahead and get my hands on the bar where I want them. And then from there, I'm going to slide to where my traps are off the pad. Get my feet set, and from here, I'm going to start to arch and tighten as I slide forward. Making sure my back's nice and tight, and then I'm going to sit my traps right on top there. Now, how I know if I'm not tight anymore is I will feel my back just fan over that pad. So, scapulas are nice and tight. From here, now I'm going to adjust my feet where I want them while maintaining a nice tight position. And then from here, I can just come up, and you'll notice as soon as I come down, that's it. Now, if I let my back go, watch the difference in how far my bar moves.
That's a good three inch difference, probably.
And now I have all this weight and this arm that's just floating around. That all kinds of stuff can go wrong. Rotator cuff injuries, pec tears, you name it. I've actually seen people go through, they lose that back, and they try recovering from it, and it causes them to pop a lap. That's a horrible, horrible injury as well. One of the main things is just, there's a lot of things you can do for it. One of the easiest ways to learn, in my opinion, on excuse me, on how to get that proper back tightness, find yourself a resistance band or two, hook it to something, and just squeeze and pretend that someone's hand is right between your shoulder blades, and you're trying to squeeze their hand with your shoulder blade, and then just lay back on the bench. That's also going to help you get your arch as well. I know there's some of you out there that are extremely, extremely flexible, and you guys can get these horseshoe-shaped arches.
That's me.
Most beautiful and biggest arch I've ever seen in my life. And this man right here.
You'll see my arch in a minute. It's awesome.
It's amazing. It's amazing. There's a lot of female lifters out there that are very jealous of. I myself, I'm not a big archer. I can get my upper back, my lats tight enough without taking and going to that super big arch. There could be some pros and cons of that, but for me it works. That's the other thing, is find what works for you. If you're sitting there and you're constantly struggling on trying to get a big arch and your bench isn't going anywhere, maybe it's time to not focus on the arch quite as much and focus on a couple other things, as far as maybe seeing if there's something different you can do with your hand placement. Seeing if maybe you're not keeping your, because I've seen people that go for that big giant arch that they end up losing the back position because they're so focused on keeping that arch as big as they can, that they forget to keep that back squeeze. So again, just like with hand position, you got to mess around with it a little bit. Dale's going to go over and show you his back positioning to where you can kind of see how different it can be from going from a smaller person like myself to someone with a much bigger, wider back like him.
Yeah, I'm not a huge archer. The best arch that I have is my built-in arch. But the main thing that I really focus on is, I try to get a decent arch, but it's my upper back tightness and my lats that kind of make or break a bench. That if I am set up, and I come out and I feel like I'm in a great position, normally, I'm gonna get that bench. If I come up and my shoulders are out and I don't have my lats set, I don't care if it's a lighter warm-up set, I might miss it. You never know. It's all about, it's just like the squat, with a pickup. If you have a shitty pickup, chances are you're going to miss your squat if it's a heavy squat. But if you've got a good solid pickup and you feel stable, just like on the bench, you're probably going to get it, unless you took some sort of, crazy jump. But I'll show you my setup is a little bit different than Justin's, and I went to a Hoff seminar. Dave Hoff came to Columbia and showed us a few things, and I took kind of part of his setup and modified it to myself, because I don't tuck my feet up under like he does. I normally bench with a little bit more leg drive than he does, so I have my feet out. But that's about the only difference between our setups. So we're practically the same person. I'll go ahead and get my feet up on the bench. I'll take my hands, get them the grip that I want, and then I'll pick my butt up and then start walking my shoulder blades in, pulling my traps in, and then I'll set my butt, get my foot